Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already done so, be sure and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can keep up with the shenanigans. Y'all, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and I have some book recommendations for you. So we talked last week about Christmas romances. This week, let's get into some more general fictions. I want to start off with When Christmas Comes by Andrew Klavan. Y'all, this is a Christmas mystery. It starts off in a small town where the local librarian has been murdered, and her former Army Ranger boyfriend has confessed to the murder. So, job, book over, right? Nope. The prosecutor doesn't quite buy his confession. So she calls in her friend and our main character, Cameron Blake, to do some snooping around and investigate and see what he can find out. So through Cameron Blake, we get to know about the deceased librarian, the boyfriend, the town, the other characters, the story, and what happened. There are lots of twists and turns, and honestly, y'all, it's a very clever story. It's an interesting mystery. As we get to know Cameron Blake, we learn that he has lots of secrets, lots of skeletons in his past, and of course, those add to the story and sort of impact his investigation of the case. Like I said, lots of twists and turns, all the way up to the very, very end. If I'm being honest, I have to say that this book wasn't really my cup of tea. The author, Andrew Klavan, is a conservative political analyst. I've read other works by him, and he's a very good writer. His writing is very tight and precise, and this book is written from a conservative point of view, which isn't a problem for me. It's just not what I'm looking for in a Christmas book. I was looking for something more fun, and maybe it's not even that Andrew Klavan writes conservatively. Maybe it's that it's a mystery, and maybe that's just not what I was after at Christmas time. But I recognize that it is a very good book. It's very well written. The story is interesting. Had I not been reading it to review, I may well have not finished it, and I'm glad that that's not the case. I'm glad that I did finish it because I do like the ending a lot. It made me like the story a lot better. There's a sequel to it, which I will not be reading for no reason other than that I just don't care. I don't care about the characters. And again, y'all, I believe that's a me thing, not a book thing or a characters thing. I mean, you're not going to like every book that you read, and this book wasn't for me, but honestly, I think if I could get the intern to read it, I think he would like it. But as I was starting to read it, I was just steady fussing about how I wasn't liking it and why should I care about these people and blah, blah, blah. So when I suggested to him that he read it and tell me what he thinks about it, he's like, what? Like, ooh, this milk smells rotten. What do you think? Like, ooh, this book is awful, read it and tell me what you think, which is not the case. But if you like writers like Tom Clancy, for instance, which I don't, for the exact same reason that I didn't like this Andrew Klavan book, you might enjoy When Christmas Comes by Andrew Klavan. My next book, y'all, is Skipping Christmas, and this one I enjoyed quite a bit. Skipping Christmas takes us through the holiday season with Luther and Nora Crank. Y'all will recall from my TBR that this book by John Grisham is the book upon which the movie Christmas with the Cranks is apparently loosely based. I didn't watch the movie, but from what I understand, it is loosely based on this book. The book starts off with Luther and Nora Crank dropping their daughter off at the airport to leave for 2 years to join the Peace Corps right before Christmas. So it is their first Christmas without their daughter. They are empty nesters for Christmas. Well, Luther, the tax accountant, does some number crunching and calculating and figures out that it costs them $6,000 every year to do Christmas. And he decides that instead of them celebrating Christmas in their normal fashion, that they should take a cruise. So he surprises Nora with the news that this year for Christmas, they're doing no donations, no decorations, no gifts, none of that. They're going to skip spending all of that money and go on a cruise. Nora reluctantly agrees and goes along with Luther on this harebrained scheme. Well, y'all know that with the holidays, there's sort of a social contract, right? Like we all kind of agree that we do decorations and we do cards and we do the things, right? And if somebody decides all of a sudden not to do all of the things, people get suspicious and think it's a little weird. And that's exactly what happens in this book. And it's interesting to watch how other people react to the cranks stepping outside of their holiday traditions and not doing things like decorating the house and taking part in neighborhood activities and things that they've done every year for decades. People get a little freaked out. And it's interesting to watch the cranks not engage in these things and seem to almost miss it. They seem to be a bit alienated as they remove themselves from these activities. It's an interesting statement on both the commercialization of Christmas, but also on the community aspects involved in not just Christmas, but all holidays and how the traditions that we share unite us. So throughout the book, we watch Nora go along with Luther, at times seeming to buy into his idea and at times just sort of going along with him until she doesn't. And of course, things don't just go along swimmingly, because then what kind of book would we have? There are interesting twists and turns and developments along the way, and I feel like this book just sort of gives you the opportunity to sit back and reflect on the holiday season and the hubbub that's involved and what is and isn't sort of worth it in all of that. So I almost called it Christmas with the Cranks. That's not right. Skipping Christmas by John Grisham. A quick little read, y'all. It's fun, and you might actually find some things to think about in it, y'all. Fanny Flagg's A Redbird Christmas was my next read. I love Fanny Flagg. If you're a fan of Fanny Flagg, you're already a fan of this book. As with a lot of Fanny Flagg's books, I feel like this one hits a lot of tropes, but she does them well, so it's okay. We start off in Chicago on a snowy, mushy, windy, wintry day with one of our main characters, Oswald Campbell, getting some unfortunate health news. He learns that his emphysema has advanced to the point that his doctor tells him that he won't survive another Chicago winter. That at this point, he probably won't survive till Christmas if he doesn't get out of Chicago. This would be a shocking blow to anyone, and it is to Oswald. So the doctor tries to comfort him and give him some advice, and he gives him a brochure that he has for this health spa down in Alabama, which to them is a completely different world. So Oswald, having really no other options, calls the number on the brochure for this health spa. Well, the number's out of order, so through some finagling and twists and turns, he gets another number, calls it, and ends up speaking to somebody in Lost River, Alabama. Well, through a couple of phone calls and conversations, Oswald ends up moving to Lost River, Alabama, y'all, this tiny little town on a river in Alabama. Now take a second. Close your eyes. Imagine a small town on a river in Alabama, and y'all, that's Lost River. And Oswald moves from Chicago to Lost River because of this lung condition, of course. And we get all of the big city mouse gone to the country tropes. He's taken aback by how everything is so small, how the whole town is compacted into one block, how the people are so nice, even that the mail is delivered by a mailman in a boat. We get all of it. The story develops as Oswald learns to care for and trust the people in this small town, and they learn to care for and trust him. And let me tell you, this small town has lots of familiar small town characters that we've seen over and again, and y'all, Fanny Flagg does them so well. We've got the Spencer sisters. We've got the general store / grocery store run by the local man who's lived in town forever. We have the little girl with the country parents who neglect her. We even have feuding crafting groups. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Groups of women who craft and feud amongst themselves, like the groups feud amongst themselves, not the women in the groups. There are organized groups of crafters who feud amongst themselves. We have family feuds. We even have a bird named Jack. Y'all, we have all the things. And our little country girl has a condition that they all sort of have to rally together and help her to overcome. The things that happen in this book aren't surprising, but they're interesting. And one of the things that I find most interesting, and we find it in all of Fanny Flagg's books, is that her characters aren't perfect. They're flawed. And some of these characters are flawed in really big ways. But you like the characters. So you're okay with their flaws and you cheer them through them. Y'all, I just love this book. I had read it years ago and forgotten about it, and y'all, it is just absolutely magical. Fanny Flagg's writing transports you to this sleepy little town in Alabama. Her storytelling will make you believe in family and friendship and the magic of Christmas, whether you want to or not, I'm telling you. So y'all, get you a copy of A Redbird Christmas by Fanny Flagg. My last book for this week is James Patterson and Ted Safran's The 12 Topsy-Turvy Very Messy Days of Christmas. Y'all, this is a quick-moving, sappy Christmas story that brings a broken family together, and I loved it. It's about Will and Ella Sullivan, who lost their mom on Christmas 5 years ago, and their dad Henry, who hasn't been able to move forward without his beloved Katie. Y'all, he's a mess of a dad, a mess of a homemaker, and a mess of a professor just barely hanging on to his job at Columbia University. He just can't seem to do anything since Katie died. They haven't had a Christmas gift. They haven't had a decoration, Christmas dinner, nothing since she died. Well, Ella knows in order for them to get Christmas back, they have to boost their dad out of this funk. And she decides that the way to do that is to find him a wife. So she decides to take matters into her own hands, and y'all, things go straight off the rails. So she signs her dad up for an online dating service, and she drags her brother into the whole adventure. And just as things are getting started, their dad busts them. So their plan gets shut down, which is just as well because they couldn't figure out how they were going to pay the fee for the online dating service. So they shut the whole thing down just as Ms. Truelove started messaging what she thought was Henry, but was of course the kids. Well, then mysterious and strange gifts start arriving and keep arriving. From here, the story gets messy and goofy and sweet and fun and just downright heartwarming as these characters grow and heal as they have to work together to deal with all of the things that are coming at them. I don't want to say too much for fear of giving spoilers, but this is a fun book full of the magic and healing of Christmas, and y'all, I really enjoyed it. It's a very quick read with lots of twists and turns, some of which you'll see coming, some of which you might not, but I really, really enjoyed it and I recommend it. That's it for this week, y'all. I have one more small stack of Christmas books to get through, and I'll come back next week, tell you what I think of those, and then the week after we'll sum up the whole deal. Let me know what Christmas books y'all are reading. And I'm building my wintry read TBR. So if you have any wintry or snowy theme books that you recommend, drop them in the comments. Y'all, thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you haven't already done so, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I upload new food and fitness videos every Monday with some book videos sprinkled in between. See ya on the next one.